Hi, I'm Wallace. I'm the founder and CEO of Above Board Financial, and in this video, I'm going to talk about conversion options. A conversion option lets you take your term life insurance policy and convert some or all of it into a permanent life insurance policy. Recall that term life insurance only pays a benefit if you die during a defined period of time, whereas permanent life insurance pays out a death benefit whenever you die, so long as you pay the premiums that are due on the policy. Now, I'm going to go ahead and screen share here and share with you a few details about conversion options. A question we often get is whether the premiums go up when you convert. And the answer is yes, they do. And the reason for that is that the premiums on the conversion are going to be determined by a couple things. One is your age at the conversion in the future. So say that you get your term coverage when you're 30 years old, and maybe it's because you're expecting your first child. And then 20 years later, when you're 50, you decide to convert. Your pricing will be based on the rates for a 50-year-old person. Another input is the policy you convert to. Different types of permanent life insurance, which we talk about in a different video, have different levels of pricing depending on what goals you're trying to achieve. And so part of it matters in terms of what you get to convert to. Then lastly, and this is the really key point about the conversion, the premiums are going to be determined by the health class rating you got on the original term policy. And that can be hugely beneficial because you can imagine that in that example where a 30-year-old gets coverage when they're expecting their first child, let's assume that 30-year-old qualifies for a preferred rate. They're in very good health. They lock in that preferred rating when they're 30. And then over the course of the next 20 years, they have some more complicated health journeys. They get a cancer diagnosis when they're in their 40s. And they decide that they would like to have some permanent life insurance in place when they're 50. In that example, the fact that they have been diagnosed with cancer in their 40s has zero impact on the price they would get on their permanent life insurance if they exercise the conversion option. And that can be hugely valuable in certain scenarios. Now, another sort of less dire situation is if somebody just, gets to be older and wealthier and is doing some estate planning or ready to do supplemental retirement planning in a way that maybe they weren't ready to earlier in life. And they're looking at different permanent policies as part of their total portfolio of financial assets. And that can also be a reason why it's helpful to have a conversion option. And even if you haven't had a significant health event by the time you convert, maybe you've found out you have very high cholesterol or high blood pressure, so stuff that's manageable and will be fine, but might just make your pricing not quite as good as you would like. Term conversion option can be really helpful there too. Two key questions to understand about conversion options. One, how long is the conversion period? That determines how long you're allowed to convert from term into permanent life insurance. Typical features might be either the entire level term period up until a certain age, such as 65 or 70, whereas other term policies have very short conversion periods, like only the first 10 years. Some carriers offer you a choice between a shorter conversion or a longer conversion option, and you just pay a bit extra for the longer conversion option. Second, there's this question of, well, what can you convert to? Carriers have pretty different approaches to what they let people convert to. Some take the approach that we use the analogy of it's the used Toyota Camry for sale for $100,000. Now, a used Toyota Camry is still a good car, right? It's very useful in some scenarios, but you kind of know even if you don't know much about cars, that $100,000 for that is not a good price. And some carriers kind of do that with their conversion options. They basically say, okay, you can convert, but we're going to make this special menu of not so great stuff available, and it'll cost way more than what you would be able to get if you were like a healthy older person looking for permanent coverage. The other bucket of conversion options lets you convert to something that we call sort of the $100,000 Tesla Model X option, where it's a good price for a thing that has some nice attributes that you might decide you'd like to get in the future. And that's an example of like a conversion option where you might want to convert to permanent coverage, and it's actually a product that you would choose if you are a healthy older person looking for coverage. So if you think there's a good chance that you might want to have permanent life insurance someday, it can be worthwhile to focus on policies that are more in the Model X camp versus the Toyota Camry for $100,000 camp, just because your future self will be happier with the choices available. But if you're just looking for disaster protection, the way to get something in place if you get horrible health news at the end of your term, the used Toyota Camry version will usually get that job done. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We're at aboveboardfinancial.com or drop us a note at hello@aboveboardfinancial.com.